All right, everybody. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the meaning of life. Now, I know that's it's the second video on the channel, and it's quite a topic, right? So that gives you an idea of kind of how I like to operate, which is just jumping right in. The meaning of life is, it's kind of like when I was a kid, right? Like I wanted to know so bad, like what the meaning of life was, not just in the universe, but also like in the world, right? And like, what's the point of all this? And I know a lot of people ask that question, but I really wanted to know because it seemed like it would be relevant. You know what I mean? Like, how are you supposed to know which direction to go or what to do or what not to do in life if you don't know the meaning of life or the main objective? So I spent a lot of time figuring that out and digging and reading and searching and hanging out with masters and sages and teachers and all that kind of stuff. And I found the answer. And I just want to make it clear that, I know this is like a big question, and it's like, who are you, pal, to be talking about this or to even be giving the answer to this? But the truth is, you got to understand that, what you really are as like a spiritual being, as a being of consciousness and energy. When they say you were created in the image and likeness of God, for example, that means something. And that's actually very true. And so to find out the meaning of life is, it's like finding out your true nature or finding out your true source. You can do it. Anyone can do it because that's where we come from, right? Like our primary objective, you have the right, you have the ability to find out what that is. We like to make it all mysterious down here on planet Earth right now, but the truth is, the answer is out there and you can find it. You have the right to do that. I'm not special. No one has to be special to find it out. If you want it, you can get it. It's kind of like in the Bible when it says, knock and the door shall be opened. The knocking is kind of like the asking of questions or the inquiring, and you'll get the answers. You will. So let's talk about the meaning of life, shall we? So essentially, as simple as I can make it, to put it simply, the meaning of life is to find God. Right? And I don't mean believe in God, I mean find God. And just to be clear, my definition of God is, like a lot of people say, it's not the man in the sky with the beard and all that. It's really, you could call it sort of like unlimited consciousness, although in truth, God is really beyond consciousness altogether. But it's really just kind of like infinite, just kind of picture, if you could, infinite, like never-ending, timeless bliss, love, fulfillment, safety, security, just total fulfillment, just happiness. I mean, I'm using the word happy, but it's happiness and fulfillment and wholeness on a level that's just beyond words, right? And so the meaning of life is to find this, not just to believe it again, but to realize it, right? Like to really tap into that and experience it. And finding this, having this full realization, because right now we're sort of aware of our body, right? Our personal identity, and it's like really tiny and kind of confined and restricted, right? We're aware of our bodily senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, all that stuff. But you can... It's not just that you can experience the infinite and infinite bliss and wholeness and happiness, but it's really our birthright as offspring of the divine, right? As we're really offspring of what I just mentioned, right? Which is this infinite, never-ending source of bliss and love and all that stuff. It's beyond time and space. It's beyond all concepts. And so that's what I refer to as God. If you ever hear me use that word God, which you will a lot on this channel, that's what I'm talking about. But it's also the kingdom of heaven, moksha, nirvana. That's what all these people are talking about, the promised land. And that's like when people say go to heaven, that's what they're talking about. But you have to, we'll get to that in another episode. But suffice it to say that the meaning of our lives here is to find this. And if you don't realize this in one life, and this is what they teach in the East, you're simply born again, right? Into a new body. It really is like a video game where it's like, if you don't achieve your objective in one life, that body dies, but your soul, your spirit is sort of like infinite consciousness, and it just kind of loops back into either the planet that you were born on before or some other place. But it's all designed for you to go through as many experiences as you need to, which down here in this world is, as the Buddhists say, it's suffering, right? And it really is. I mean, you're born, all this crazy stuff happens, lots of ups and downs. Some people live really painful lives. And then you get old and your body starts breaking down, you start losing loved ones, and eventually you die. I mean, that's the reality here. So the meaning of life is to transcend all that, to find out your true self, to find out the true source, and this is what sages in the East call God realization, right? And to pull this off, which is we'll be talking about this all through this channel and the lifetime of this channel, but to pull off God realization or getting into the kingdom of heaven or entrance into the promised land, all that stuff, it's all the same thing. It takes a little work, right? And we'll get into how to do that work. There are people that just believe if you believe a certain thing, you're all good to go and you're get in when you die physically. Unfortunately, that's not the way that it works. We'll talk more about that at the same time. But yeah, it's just infinite happiness. You know how like in this world, we experience depression and anxiety and feelings of like not being fulfilled, right? Like even if you had like all the money in the world and all the best stuff and cars and houses and husbands or wives or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever it is that you like if you had all of it, even if you look at celebrities or different rich people, they'll say things like, yeah, I'm still not happy. Money doesn't buy happiness. And that's what they mean when they say that. And the reason is and that feeling, right? That feeling of longing and yearning and being unfulfilled is there because this world isn't really reality. And our mission as spiritual beings is to get back to that awareness of just, you could just call it like God consciousness, God realization. And that's where you're going to find your happiness, right? Like that's where you're going to find that lasting fulfillment and freedom and happiness that we've all been looking for. And we're all going to make it. So, you don't have to worry about that. Some people get there faster than others. Some people take longer. But ultimately, we're all going back because we're all part of the same source, right? And obviously, there's many paths to finding this source of unlimited happiness and eternal life. But, one common characteristic is you've got to go within, right? So whatever path you follow, and I'm a respecter of all beliefs, paths, faiths, because ultimately they do all lead to what we're talking about here, which is God. It does require, like they say, the truth is within, right? The kingdom of heaven is within. So however you do it, you've got to have some way of going within. So the meaning of life is to find God, right? Unlimited happiness, unlimited love, bliss, fulfillment, wholeness. And it's a wholeness and love that never ends, right? It's the kingdom of heaven. It's like the end all be all, and that's what it is. It's to find not just happiness and fulfillment and wholeness, but unlimited happiness and fulfillment, and also freedom of being, right? Because your being will be eternal. This is what they talk about, like eternal life, right? If you realize this, if you realize your being is like a soul or a spiritual, you're just consciousness, right? And you identify with that instead of a limited body or mind, really, you become sort of identified with your eternal self, and you can do whatever you want. Creation is ultimately the name of the game, which is extending this happiness and bliss. And also, what's really interesting is this bliss and wholeness is like, it's you, like it's your true self. That's why if you meditate and stuff like that, you'll eventually get to a place where you're like, whoa, like, it's like I'm happy, but it's like I am the happiness, right? It's like I feel joy, but it's almost like it's me. It's my real self, right? So that's what it's all about. That's the main meaning of life. In case you were wondering, that's it. You don't have to believe me. I don't expect you to believe this or anything on this channel. But if you take the journey yourself, you'll find what I'm talking about here to be true. It's just ultimate happiness and fulfillment and joy and life never ending. That's the meaning of our lives here. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to talk about everything as it relates to spirituality and consciousness and everything, all through this channel. So don't even worry about it. I hope that makes sense, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.